all the puzzle pieces started to fit together, where the food qualities, the water, the meditation, the thoughtfulness, the mindfulness, the shadow work, all those things started coming together. And there was a point where I looked back and it was further to go back than to keep going forward.
Welcome to the New Age Sage podcast, where you come to free your mind from all the things that keep you in suffering. Today's guest is Aleks Rybchinskiy. I recommend to try and stay neutral and calm in this conversation because you may get triggered a lot. We say a lot of things that go against the established belief system we have in society, but if you stay neutral and truly listen, remove your biases, try and open your mind, I promise you can learn something that could change your life. Please like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, leave a review, and subscribe if you're listening on audio platforms. As always, thank you so much for listening. I love you all. Hey, Aleks. Welcome on, man.
Thanks for having me.
So we were talking before this about how I struggled to calm down at a certain point in the day when work's done, the stress is done. All you want to do is just calm down. And I used to do the unhealthy drugs back in the day. So for me, it was when I was 19, 20, it was, Xanax, and I used to take Adderall. So for me, now I'm in a space where I've learned to not be scared of those feelings, which is a good place. But for those also listening, we can figure this out together. What's a good way for people, naturally, supplements, to start just like shifting down to a calm state in their nervous system, like works over that point in the day?
It depends on what people are doing. So if they're, like we were talking, and then your brain, you said, is always active, is always on, and then you take any kind of, substance that normally would put people down and it brings you even higher.
Yeah.
So it depends on how their chemistry interacts with different substances. So for some people, they drink coffee to bring them up, and some people don't drink coffee because it puts them down.
Yeah.
So there's not always this correlating effect. What's pretty standard is going for a walk, harmonizing your brain, especially after a meal. So going for a walk, most people think it's a very linear motion, but when you walk, your spine is always rotating. So you are getting rotation happening in the spine. You also are moving laterally. You are moving in also sagittally forward as well. And putting your feet in the dirt really helps ground, because it takes all those, if I remember properly, positive ions out of your system, and it harmonizes you a lot more effectively. Which basically, if people don't quite understand what that means, is what is grounding actually? Well, if you put your finger in an outlet, let's say metaphorically or maybe physically, it tunes everything to a very heightened level. Yeah. So grounding takes all that charge out of you so you can think clearly. So that's one thing I recommend for people, learning how to breathe properly. So even taking your hands on your chest and your belly and then taking a deep breath in, and people can follow along even if they're, seeing this, and see which hand moves. And so if you take a breath and then the bottom hand goes in, but the top hand goes up, then you have your backwards breathing pattern. And so that indicates that you're breathing from your neck too much. And then it's those neck muscles and your pecs, also your pec minors, will lift your rib cage, because you have two mechanisms: lift your rib cage, or the diaphragm comes down and the belly comes out. The proper way to breathe would be take your belly coming out while your upper hand doesn't move. I mean, when you're doing different advanced breathing techniques, you could implement both. But as we're talking to how do you ground yourself, is make sure you're breathing with your belly, because your body thinks it's in a fight or flight mode.
Yeah.
If you're breathing with your chest and also breathing through your nose.
Yeah. It's essential knowledge is to learning how to breathe. But for me, I've noticed, how do you stay aware? Like, develop the habit of staying aware all day of how you're breathing. It's simple to just say, okay, I'm going to take 5 minutes to ground myself. But for me, I did that. I think other people may be in this boat where it's like trying to be very aware of how you're breathing all day. How did you develop? I'm assuming you have that skill now where you're just very conscious of breathing through your belly the whole day. Because I'll notice, around there's certain parts in the day where I'll get super amped up. And I'll see myself, I'm breathing shallow through my chest. And I want to just be consistent throughout the day. So what's the way you recommend for people to start getting really consistent with their breathing, where it's going that same process throughout the whole day?
Set a timer. What I have my clients do, depending on where they work, if they work in a big office, maybe they set a timer for 15 minutes. And then every 15 minutes, the timer goes off, reminds them to take 10 breaths with their belly.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they start at 1 hour. So every hour, an alarm goes off, whether it be, vibration or it's loud, it catches your attention. Set an alarm, whatever feels good to start with. And then the more you start practicing it, the law of facilitation kicks in. And the more you do something, and I'm going to paraphrase it, the more you do something, the easier it becomes and the less energy it takes to do that thing. The same way as putting on your shoes. You don't think about putting on your shoes. I bet you if I can get you stoned out of your mind or drunk and ask you to put your shoes on, you'll be able to do it and tie them.
Yeah.
Because it's so built into our nervous system that, of course, I can put my shoes on.
Yeah.
And that's the same kind of concept. You're training your brain to think and pay attention to certain things. Like, for example, I'm sure when you got a new car, before you got that car, you never saw that car on the road. You got that car, all of a sudden you see that car everywhere.
Yeah.
Because you have that attention to your car, you see your car everywhere now.
Yeah.
And putting your mind on a task, and it becomes easier until it becomes unconscious behavior. Because you will have, are you familiar with the unconsciously incompetent, consciously incompetent? Hold on, I'm gonna mess this up. Unconsciously incompetent. So you're not even aware that you're unaware.
Yeah.
Then you're consciously incompetent. Yeah. Where you're aware that you're unaware.
Yeah.
Then you become consciously incompetent. Did I say that again?
I think you're good.
I think. Oh yeah. And then so you're aware of the fact that you are. Even if I mess this up because I don't have it, I need to write it down.
You're good.
You're unaware, or you're aware that you're unaware, and then you're practicing the fact that you're not good at the thing. And then you become unconsciously competent. So you're doing the thing without even trying to do the thing. So it takes no energy.
Yeah.
And that's the mastery stage. So eventually, I mean, it will sync up. And for example, you're aware. You go, oh, I'm breathing in my chest. Stop what you're doing. Recalibrate. Retune. And making sure, and for a lot of people, I recommend they grab their sternocleidomastoid, which is that muscle when you turn your head. It goes from behind your ear all the way down to your clavicle in the front here, and I have them grab it. And if they breathe with their chest, their neck tightens up and it pops out of their hands. So what I have them do is I keep working on that until it doesn't pop out of your hands.
Yeah. When we live in arguably the most stressed era ever, 10 minutes on Instagram, 10 minutes checking email, 10 minutes checking the news can just fuck up your nervous system like that. So what's it like for you managing, being the way you are in this world? What are things you do that are different to everyone else? How do you know what you know? How do you stand out from anyone to cultivate, the relaxed, holistic life you live? Because it probably looks way different to everyone. Because most people are just on their phone all day, reacting to everything, getting triggered at the news, eating shit. Like what's so different about your life that leads you to be peaceful?
Most people have the idea that they need to pretend to be calm, and then they'll become calm and peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the way the universe works. There's a universal law called the and my brain is not functioning right now as you're giving me props for this. It's called the law of polarity. So if you have one, you're going to have the other. They have to happen. And I'll give you an example. The good vibes movement, you have all these good vibes. People are pushing away things that are uncomfortable.
Yeah, bullshit.
But the law of polarity says the opposite has to balance. So when people focus so much on the polarity of good vibes, what they're attracting is their unconscious. All these things have to come. So now if we switch that, and if you attract your unconscious to the surface, that means by the law of polarity, it attracts that abundance and peace that you are searching for because you're addressing the things that are hard to look at.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at what's happening in media, what's happening in our food, in our water, and if you're paying attention to those things, it's painful to look at first.
Yeah.
And ultimately, you can't help anybody until you help yourself. So if you don't have clean water, your brain's not going to function properly. You're not going to detox. You're not going to poop properly. You're not going to be able to sleep properly. And if you're not going to have the right good food in your system, if you don't even know what good food is, because I have a lot of people coming and saying, oh, I eat good. And then I look at their logs.
Well, like macros bullshit.
Yeah. Absolute, like conventional farmed food with things that we're told to them are good. And
Yeah.
I'm like, this is not good. So we change things up and their body starts functioning better. So it's looking at the things that really are painful in all the things.
Yeah.
Is my behavior life affirmative and dream affirmative? Is what I'm participating in, is that getting me closer to my dream? Is the food that I'm eating, the water that I'm drinking, am I going to bed on time? I can't be confused why I can't function or think straight if, you're hopped up on sugar, full of caffeine, underslept, underrested, overexercised, overconsumed on social media,
Yeah.
and then wonder why you have so much anxiety and depression and confusion because you're consuming so many things that are given to you instead of you choosing what you're consuming.
Yeah.
So after a certain point, working on that long enough and peeling those painful band-aids off, you notice as you discern between certain things, life becomes more peaceful because you've discerned all those things.
Yeah, but I hear you, man. I have beef with the toxic positivity movement, right? Because I do believe that positive thinking works definitely sometimes, but if we use it to avoid the trauma, to avoid the shadow, like we just become beasts. We just project all our bullshit. We don't look at ourselves. And have you seen the movie Black Swan before?
Parts of it.
So the whole point of the movie is that one of the characters is a perfectionist. So she only spends time always looking at her light. Like, I have to be this like positive, great, amazing person. And the other character is someone who's like represents the shadow. We're darker, they're more lustful. And then you see throughout the story, the protagonist in her perfectionism ends up just destroying everyone. That leaks her always need for light. She ignores the shadow. So I've noticed in myself and people that when you're always focused on that light, that positivity, the shadow just wreaks havoc. And that's more of a spiritual, personal perspective, even with health, right? That it can be hard to go down that path because it's isolating. I'm from New York City. I moved here. I just went back this weekend. Man, it's tough because all social situations are around shitty food, shitty drugs, shitty people talking about bullshit. And once you wake up, which I did, thankfully, you look at everyone, like all love, but it's just tough. It's isolating. It truly is isolating. Taking that initial step back, but it becomes so free. So what was that journey for you like? When did it start at a young age? When did you fully become disillusioned by everything? Where you were like, whoa, everyone's lying, everyone's eating shit. When was that moment for you, and how did you navigate that?
Well, it started me moving from Ukraine, and then my parents have always home cooked, but then we would go out and get food, and then I got stuck on good food or crappy food because it tasted really good. So I'd go home and I go, what is this? Like, home cooked meals, but I want that greasy stuff that everyone's eating. So then I started eating those. Then I got fatter. Then I ended up in high school losing a bunch of weight, and then people started treating me different. And I'm like, this is interesting. So then I gained a bunch of weight again. People started treating me different. Lost a bunch of weight again. People started treating me different. Then I got absolutely massive because I was thinking, well, if I can get people, I need more girls. And this is what, Arnold Schwarzenegger, has all these girls around him. So if I get jacked, then I'll have more girls. Well, I was 240 pounds, absolute unit, shredded. No one wanted to talk to me. And so it was really interesting. They were more scared of me than attracted to me. So then I'm like, okay, well, what's happening? And I played sports in between then, but it wasn't until I was 17 years old and I got arrested that my whole life changed. And I was like, wait, this isn't me. So it took a big catalyst to either shift my life when I saw how disappointed my parents were, not at me, at themselves, and how to keep me out of jail and all these other things. That when I saw that reflected off of them and what the anger wasn't projected onto me, it scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
And everything shifted. And then so I started exercising. And that's when I was sharing. I got focused on bodybuilding and focused on going to personal training school since the age of 18 and trying to work on my body because it kept me away from bad people because it's a lonely endeavor, is bodybuilding. And so then I tried the exercise and I go, oh, this is helping. I'm getting bigger. And then I was like, let me try diet because I've never had abs since I was like 4 years old. Let me try that. Oh, that worked. Okay, well, that's cool. And then, then I'm going to keep playing sports. And then I got injured and then I gained a bunch of weight. And then I met Paul Chek. And then I started following his curriculum, and then all the puzzle pieces started to fit together, where the food qualities, the water, the meditation, the thoughtfulness, the mindfulness, the shadow work, all those things started coming together, but also helped me with coaching people. And then what ended up happening was that shifted my life so much. And there was a point where I looked back and it was further to go back than to keep going forward.
Yeah, for sure.
And that was that turning point where there was no turning back. To go back is more painful than it is to move forward. And the pain of moving forward, the pain of moving back is way worse.
It's an amazing way to put it. I never heard it put like that, but it's so true. I think I intuitively felt that, right? Where it's in my body where I look at, okay, what would it, even though it's super isolating on this new journey, because most people don't think like me, especially during COVID, it was just like, I lost all my friends the way I thought, which is fine. But what I thought was, how much more painful would it be to keep feeling like I can't speak, or I can't say certain things, or I have to keep eating shit, or I have to keep going to clubs, people drinking around me. Like, fuck that. I'd rather be alone, feeling healthy, and all of that. And it's also, I trusted something in me trusted that it would eventually work out. But I wanted to shift it to more health conversation now. You mentioned shadow work as like an integral part of your health curriculum. Why is shadow work beyond the psyche? Why is shadow work actually important for our health? How does it affect our system, our cells, our gut? Like, why is it actually important for our health?
So the holistic system, to participate in something that's holistic, you start with the spirit, you go to the mental, the emotional, then the physical. They all interact with each other. But the spirit comes in when you have a shift that needs to occur.
Yep.
And most people, they feel their emotions and they try to absolve themselves of those emotions. They try to get rid of them or tuck them or suppress them or whatever their coping mechanism is for those things. Besides feel them, see the situation, and move forward. And then a lot of people will skip the emotions. They don't want to feel them. They go to the physical.
Yep.
So you see a lot of athletes will, once again, try to exhaust themselves, which also is energy in motion. You exhaust your energy and then you don't feel those emotions temporarily. But then the lesson is still at the spirit level. And then you start getting those thoughts that you need to get out, pick the weeds out of the mind, and cultivate a new garden in your mind. And weeds are always going to be there. No matter how clean your garden is, you're always going to get some weeds. Birds going to fly over, that was rustling and something, spread a seed, boom, they're up. So whenever people get a message from spirit that they need to change, their body usually reflects that. And when people come to me, they usually come to me with an issue of pain. Mm-hmm. And your organs, people don't know, are the place where your body feels emotions, which is why when you have a breakup, people feel it in their heart. When they're anxious, they have butterflies in their stomach.
Of course,
when they can't digest something, they feel constipated. When they're angry, it's like everything curls up. Your liver is where you process anger, but also where you process joy. And so people don't realize on a holistic level that our body consumes not only physically with the food that we eat on a physical level, the emotional level of emotions, interactions of love and joy, happiness, and also pain, because it gives us the dualistic perspective. Then our thoughts feed our mental capacity feeds on thoughts. So if you start feeding yourself good food, but you have really poor thoughts that you're feeding yourself, that you're not looking into why you're feeling those thoughts. And then I'll give you an example in a second. And then the spirit feeds on how you're perceiving nature and how you view life. So it could be any religion, however what your relationship is with everything that's outside of ourselves. That's a mystery.
Yep.
And so going back to that, why I pay attention to the mental, emotional, the spiritual is because when people have a physical issue that starts in their mind, something that they need to learn, but they're not looking at directly. And so by addressing the physical, you free up the capacity for them to think mentally better. So if I hop you up on sugar right now, there's no way you're going to sit and be able to peacefully meditate. So we start with the physical. We get their body hormonally, chemically, and biochemically stable. So that way they can sit and think clearly. But most people can't think clearly because they're too toxic, let's say, for lack of a better word that I'm thinking about right now. And so when you free up the physical, then all of a sudden all these thoughts come flooding in. And so as people get healthier, that's when they go to the good vibes and they go, well, I don't like that thought. But the thought keeps coming back because you need to learn a lesson. Because if you don't learn a lesson, then the feelings, as a drastic example, Europeans think it's okay to hit your kids to discipline.
Yeah.
But I don't think so. But that runs through me. Those thoughts run through me. And then I get to those points. But then I have to stop and go, okay, well, here's the thought. Is this true? Is this thought going to create more discipline? Well, if I want to create a world where my kids don't experience that, I'm going to have to try certain things. Well, I need to go take a parenting class, or I need to take a communication class, or I need to check with other people how they do it. It takes work and it takes time. And people can make money passively, but they can't make time passively. Time is the most valuable thing that people have. Because if I give you, I've heard this one time where it's like, if I give you $1 billion, but you die tomorrow, would you take it? No. Yeah. So money is not more valuable than time. And you can do this with all the things across the board. So people have a hard time giving up time to get the thing that they want. And so they get stuck on that thing. And that's why I involve like, hey, you're already here. You're spending time that you exchanged money with me. So we're going to focus on those things, because once you realize what the pattern is, you're going to realize there's a better way to do it. And it's going to absolve that effect reoccurring in your body.
Yeah. So good how you put it, man, because everything is so fucking connected. So connected. Especially even the spiritual lessons. Like for me, I had serious gut issues my whole life. And, I thought it would be as simple as, going to a gastroenterologist. Yeah, going to them and being like, oh, they probably know what's up and fix something. Nope. Start eating more vegetables. Nope. Like I just tried all this stuff until I realized that, fuck, man, I had to like process trauma. I had to, get aligned with myself. I had to release all kinds of whatever, all the stuff, all the spiritual cleansing stuff. And then my stomach was finally like, oh, okay, we're going to start moving now. It's so crazy how the medical world just forgets all of that everything is so connected and it fucks people up. But even for mental health wise, psychiatry wise, we're in a state of the world where we're just giving people pills to deal with their mind. I was in that boat too. I was 19 on, I think, 9 different psychiatric medications, which could have just been solved by, hey, stop eating Shake Shack and not working out, and address your shadow. So what are like, because when people hear that argument to me, like, I'm not for psychiatric meds most of the time, all that kind of stuff, they'll say, but what if someone needs them in that moment? What if you can't clear the wires? So to counteract that, let's talk about, let's say someone comes to you, first time patient or someone you're working with, and they're in a state of just health in whack, their mind's in a rut. What's the simplest thing you do beyond medications would be like to get to a place where you can actually talk to them? Like, how do you quickly get someone to a space where they're not in that super intense rut?
I would say, first of all, the people that come see me are, I would say, a little bit different. A lot of them are about to give up.
Okay.
And so the level of compliance is very high, is because I have no patience for people that don't want to help themselves. Now, if they're trying, that's a different story. If they're actively going, okay, I'm going to do all these things, but I'm going to start with water. I don't care if it takes them a year to do it.
Yeah.
They're trying. They're working at it, It will take them faster. But I'm going to answer your question the way that's popping up, and then you could re-ask it to redirect me.
Go ahead, man.
But most people that come with certain symptoms, the first thing we start with, we ask their health history, find out what they're on. And we catalog their symptoms. And then my wife does really great investigative work and digs up all the information on people's pharmaceuticals that they're taking. And we don't pull people off of drugs. We let their doctors do that, but we advise, here's what's happening. And then the first thing we do is we go, okay, here's the problems you came in with, right? And then they go, yeah. And then I go, okay, well, here are the symptoms of the medications you're taking. Does this look different or the same? And 75 to 90% of the time, the symptoms they're experiencing match the symptoms from the drugs.
Mm-hmm.
So once you show them that and it crosses their membranes of their perceived ideas of what's normal or healthy or what's going to be beneficial, they go, oh, well, I can't argue this. It's literally a literature that they gave me that I didn't read.
Yeah.
They told me it was good, and I was like, cool, unconsciously pop pills. But then when you actually read the back of the thing, it says, I'm going to have constipation, diarrhea, and, vomiting and joint aches and, blood pressure issues. And then here I wrote, before you even looked at this, the exact same things. Like, I have irregular stools and joint aches and diarrhea, and occasionally I vomit and I can't sleep. And then, so the first point is realizing that what they're doing isn't working.
Yeah.
And so when you start getting someone stabilized, it depends on what they're needing. Some people, like for you, if your brain's always racing and you look like you could move and you won't fall apart, because some people that come see me, they can't. They have herniated discs and they can't function. So for you, I might take you, and in my house I have this in my gate I have this huge hill. So if you can't sit and think, what I would do is we would sprint up that hill until you can't. Until one point, I'm going to look at you and go, what do you think? And you go, nothing. I go, good. Now let's go. So it exhausts you to get you to a point where you can think straight, if you have the physical capacity to do so. But that's where the work begins. Most people go, okay, I'm done thinking. This is wonderful. I don't have those thoughts. But that's actually where the work begins.
Of course, yeah.
So then for some people, you have to work with them, because people get pissed when they don't get what they want.
Yeah.
And they start getting this idea that, well, I know you can help me, but then they'll fight you along the whole way. So you go, okay, well, I'm going to have you cut this out of your diet. I'm going to have you add this in. Like, what is that going to do? Do it. It's going to make you feel better. And then before you know it, and as you're doing some manual therapy, you're taking them out of pain, and you get them out of pain. So for the people that are in pain, you get them out of pain. And then when they're not thinking about pain, they can think about what got them into pain. So sometimes there's a delayed reaction of, if people are look like they're healthy, I can run you. We go and do that, and then exhaust you to the point where you're not thinking about stuff. And then we start talking about the things, your thoughts, and start breaking down your thoughts and what you're saying to yourself and to me. And I reflect that back to you. But people that are in pain, the biggest thing is you get them out of pain, whether it be digestive, mental, emotional, physical, joint, back, herniations, whatever they're going through, you get them out of pain. And then you're going to notice some time goes by, and then they're able to focus on the things that matter more, that are causing the problems that got them there. And then you could start to infiltrate and help them. Yeah,
for sure. What you're describing that the medical world doesn't really do is the pharmaceutical world looks at symptoms to medicate. Like, you're feeling this way, and all they learn to educate in the education is, this patient describes X symptom, pill that matches that symptom, boom. But what you're addressing is, what I think all good healers or doctors, anyone should do, is symptom. Let's try and figure out, why this is on like a holistic space. And if we can't figure it out, let's get to a space where we can figure it out, where you're, regulated enough to do it. How do you feel about the current state of the medical world?
Well, it's highly unethical and immoral. When you look at the oath that they take as do no harm, and then you've replaced the idea of not doing harm without the observation of what you're actually doing. So then you come to this conclusion that either you realize you're hurting people, which is really painful, because if you've been a medical practitioner for 10, 20, 30 years, and you start looking, look at the opioid crisis.
Yep.
You start looking back at all the opiates you prescribed and how many people potentially you've damaged along the way. That's very hard on the heart to handle. It's heavy to know that you potentially could have killed people. And then you took this oath that says do no harm, always do what's in the best interest of your patient, and having to come to terms with that. And what most people do is they double down on the lie.
Yep.
And it's very unfortunate, and then on top of that, there's also, let's say there are doctors that have good intentions still, and at the same time, with the policies in place, you could lose your license for not prescribing something. You lose your license for advising someone what's best for them.
Yep.
If it goes against whatever the boards or the social pressures are, or the pharmaceutical pressures, or whatever big media is saying.
It's brainwashing to some degree. Like, I'll have Even though I'm not a doctor by any means, I have personal experience. I think I know a small, not to your level, but a small dot of what this stuff's about. From my own experience, it's literally like talking to an NPC robot with like two lines. It's like you challenge a belief they have, and it's like, oh, no, like you're wrong. Conspiracy theorist, or where are you reading that from?
Hmm.
Just they're so convinced based off their education, which is just an indoctrination, that they can't even debate or have room to think. And it is going back to that it's so fucking hard to, I've had therapists and psychiatrists in the past. I no longer do, but they're good people. They're nice, kind people. They have a good heart. They're smart. Whenever I challenge them and I'm good enough at debating, where they're like, "Oh, you're probably right." I'm like, "Why can't you do something? Like, why can't you take this to your patients?" And I can't. It takes something like 10s, 20, 30, like a long amount of years to change a currently established curriculum of medicine, which is fucked. So, how do you go about do a mission to like spread the holistic world? Like, how do you debate that in your mind of having the knowledge you do, being aware of what's going on in the world? How are you going about trying to make change or helping more people in those situations? How do you navigate that?
Well, the question posed, how do I debate it? I don't. The truth is unbiased.
Yeah.
Once you see the truth, there's no talking you out of it.
Yeah.
And so most people have this idea that the more outraged you are, that means you're right. And so the people that act like that, what we're here to do as people who are taking their precious time to look at things and research things and make their own conclusions and then run those conclusions to find out I'm wrong, or, hey, I've never felt better. This is the best I felt. And you hear a lot of those stories, and, the same thing with like cancer remission patients that, they have a spiritual moment, and you'll talk to them and they have a very similar, similar outcome in their conversations with, let's say, God or spirit or the universe, is they say, I agree to change something, and that's what I'm going to live. And then all of a sudden you have spontaneous remission. Everything disappears. They're a medical mystery.
Medical mystery. That's a good one.
But they stay consistent with that, because what I tell people, if you're looking for the light in the world, and if you don't see any light, that means you're the light, which means you need to carry that torch. And there's a reason why they say there's a weight to knowledge. There's a weight of knowledge, is because true knowledge is heavy to carry.
For sure.
And you have to be a strong person, because if you're not strong and able to discern your mind and what you're seeing, it will crush someone.
Yeah.
Like finding out like Bill Cosby did all those atrocious things, and you go, why, Bill? And then you have to take a moral dilemma. Do I continue to support, watch these shows, whatever, or do I ignore the fact that he did that and continue to support this person? And it's you need to keep your mind aware of both polarities, but then the truth is where you operate in the world, because all those things exist.
Yeah.
Like what I don't know if I'm even allowed to say this, like the Epstein thing. And
say whatever you want, man.
Okay, cool. Like the thing, like the thing with like Epstein, how I've had lots of people that I've talked to about that, because I was trying to discern the information and go, well, is this possible? And then you start going into, well, what about these kids on milk cartons? What about these kids, and you start learning about the CPS, and then you start learning about Planned Parenthoods, and then you start learning about, and if people are listening to this, like I have my own lines of open thinking, so it's not whatever bias that is associated to the things I'm mentioning. So because I've thought through all these things, and so I've brought up to people, and I go, well, if this is true, how do we keep supporting them? And so most people will prefer the entertainment over the truth, prefer the sleepy lie over the painful truth. But then some of these people that I talk to don't have kids. And I go, you haven't thought through what happens if it was your kid. And if you truly, because some people didn't want kids. And so I can see how they can go, well, I'm not really attached to this kid thing.
Yeah.
But if you are involved with your children, like as we were children, hoping our parents were involved with us and wanted us and took care of us, people forget that we were children raised by parents, however the condition we were raised. Now, let's say we want to be good parents and raise the next generation, have you ever thought about that happening to your kid? And would that change anything? And so before I even allow that to happen, you have to go there to know how to not let that happen.
Yeah.
And that's a dark place to go to.
Yeah, you saw it during COVID, right? Where I had frustration was like parents living in so much fear that they fucked up their kids' lives. That's where I was like, man, like even though I respect whatever you want to believe in, I have no judgment there, but it's more so that people like putting their own shit beyond the needs of their kids, like being like, I'm so scared of this thing based on what the media said, and I'm gonna put my kids in a house for 2 years just because I'm afraid. And that point is so powerful. Like, truly think about like, is what I'm doing now going to support the next generation? Because however we treat kids now is creating, like, their brains are formed, their nervous systems are formed. Everything now is shaping the next generation. So it's a good thought exercise to think about, is what I'm supporting and doing beneficial for the next generation, which is tough because we really have to start shifting things to create change. And to me, why people are so, I'm a writer, so a lot of my writing is about this topic, is why the fuck can we talk about divisive topics? Why are we so brainwashed by, call it the Matrix, right? Whatever it may be. And to me, it's that we hold on to beliefs because they soothe our pain to some degree. Like we need a certain perspective. Either it validates part of our ego, it blinds a shadow, that when we have to believe something so fucking hard and we can't even listen to someone else, we have to look at ourselves as to why we actually have to believe that thing so much, and why can't we hold space for potentially being incorrect. And you see it nowadays. People just can't see anything outside of their own world. And even though you and I may think about certain things similarly, I try to even zoom out, being like, could I have something wrong here? Always having the open space. So how is it, leading to this question now, being, outside the box, although it is the right box in my eyes, you're outside the box in terms of like the Western mainstream world. How do you go about knowing that so many people think you're probably crazy? Or that you might receive a lot of negative comments based on things? Like, how do you feel about that? Has that comments hurt you? Have you gotten used to it?
I find that people don't really mess with me.
Really?
Because even in my comments, like when people message me, and I don't have that many followers,
Yeah.
but people will try to troll me anyway. But the point is, when I write so that way if people argue, it's clear that they're arguing to argue.
Yeah.
Because the things I'm saying without tested information and without deep amount of thought, you'll find yourself arguing for the wrong reasons. And so what I actually prefer is if they speak their truth and I engage with them, and then I leave it in the comments, because I believe people are smart. And if they go, ooh, that comment was really interesting, let me go eat my popcorn and look through, they will continue to see the conversation and they make their own decision. Because I think there's no wrong situation, because that's where I think the idea of absolving the world of pain doesn't exist, because of the law of polarity. The more Dalai Lama becomes holy, the more you have someone that counterbalances that.
Yeah.
It's designed that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so not everyone could be at the top, because then once again, you'd create a division. But the world and the way this world operates is balance. And some even say, I've heard Paul Chek say this, where it leans a little bit more to the light. So keeping the movement going towards the light, because it favors it. So ultimately, I don't think people are wrong. I don't get upset, because I don't get upset when my kids tell me that, they argue that their mathematical equation that they've come up with is right, even though it's like they tell me 2 + 2 is 5, and I don't get upset at them. Like, I know they don't know.
Yeah.
It's not something that I need to convince myself that I'm right. And so I mostly observe, and because I'm sure, and I'm also okay of not being sure.
Yeah.
And I don't have this need to be right.
That's what the key right there. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I want the truth. So like, I'll give you an example. If the earth is flat or round, I don't care.
Yeah.
I want to know what it is.
Yeah.
But until someone takes me to the ice wall or whatever, and I look over and I'm like, damn, you were right. It doesn't affect my life in any way.
Yeah.
But what I find out is throughout this whole debate between those two, the theme is, because that people can't pull out, is the government's lying to you.
Yeah.
And so I'm going, well, I could agree with that,
Yeah.
because whether the earth is flat or the videos that say like Buzz Aldrin or whoever was the one on the talk show saying that, hey, this wasn't a televised event. This was a studio picture. We didn't have a camera up there to set up, and like this is televised so you could follow along with what we were doing. But then that's what people forget. They go, oh, what he says, like we were up there, but that was fake. But people get stuck on the fake part to affirm their bias.
Yeah.
But regardless, I'm going, okay, well, let's look at all those things. But until I figure out what exactly is, then that doesn't change how I interact with you. It doesn't change the fact that I'm driving my kids to school tomorrow, and then I'm going to help people, and to continue to learn information, to discern all these things that are happening in the world. So it doesn't change much.
Yeah, probably going to trigger a lot of people with that that last conversation. But to me, the point of that, to unpack a little bit my perspective, is that no matter what the issue is, no matter if it seems crazy to you or is like so convincing to you, or Earth flat, round. I'm in the round camp. Even that, it's like, how do you, even if you really believe something, to me, what a good kind person or a good person to me is, how can you sit and respect and listen to someone that may have different perspectives than you? Just purely that. Like for me, it's no matter what someone believes, even if you see it differently, can you sit down with a calm nervous system, listen, hear them out, and have genuine conversation? That comes back to healing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, I would say this: show me someone who's healed and peaceful, who's getting triggered at an opinion. I don't think I can find that, right? So it all comes down to how you heal yourself and how grounded you are in your system. People are so reactionary and reactive, are probably dealing with a bunch of health issues, are probably stuck in trauma. So to me, it does come down to that. I'm assuming you're able to have this balanced perspective because you're calmer in your system.
Are you familiar with archetypes?
Somewhat, yeah.
Yeah. So they're these basically images of God that wants to enact itself. So wherever there's people, you're going to get someone that, hey, I need a shelter. Well, what comes up? The archetype of the builder, and then he's going to look around and go, well, if I knock a bunch of these tall sticks over and then stack them up on top of each other and then put a cover over, hey, that actually blocks out wind. This is actually more nice than the thing before. So the archetype of the builder shows up. And so now at the same time, that builder gets hurt, and then someone goes, well, let me try this. Now you have the archetype of the healer.
Yeah.
And so the shadow of the healer is wanting to save everyone from their own pain. But that's not how you heal people. Because the consensus is no one can heal you except you. So all you have to do is be the mirror for you, and then you see yourself through me, and then you heal yourself. I don't heal anybody. All I do is create a space where they can see the potential of a different reality that changes something in them, and they carry on something different. So I don't have the need to save everybody. All I have the desire is to discern what my truth is and share it, whether it be spiritual, religious, economical. And then when someone shares their truth, because I'm not agitated by a different opinion, I go, well, actually, let me entertain that. Let's see, that might work. And then I change, because I don't want to live in a paradigm of my mind that's not beneficial to my kids having a better future.
Yeah.
So when you're secure in something, you can have a conversation.
Yeah.
Like I'll give you an example. I don't know if you're gay or straight, but if you have a conversation with a gay person and you're comfortable with your sexuality, and you're not going to be agitated about their experience because you're not confused.
Yeah.
But if you are confused, you might repel, and you might not hear it because you can't hear it because what if I'm gay?
Yeah.
But if you know who you are to the degree that whatever you're talking about, then you can have differing opinions. Oh, tell me about Shabbat. Tell me about Hanukkah. Tell me about Christmas. Tell me about, whatever holiday. How does that go for you and your family? Oh, interesting. That's how we do it in my family. Versus, well, it sounds like you should be doing it because, God bless you. You need, bless your heart. You're going to go to hell with whatever, because they haven't taken the time to know what that is. And to me, people that do that create their own hell, and that is hell. They're living in hell while doing that because it's dividing the people that they're wanting to love, and it's creating conflict, and they get torn apart, and then those people get injured, whether it be mentally, emotionally, physically. Something gives out because their spirit and their body don't align, and everything in between is chaos.
It's such a real shadow. You see it in the self-help coaching world, people who just egoistically just want to help people for their own egoistic, like cocaine bump. Just like you get a high of, oh, help that person, but they don't realize that. I thankfully realized this at a young age that all you can really do is heal yourself, and then through that process, you can be an effective mirror or an effective presence to people who are going through stuff, not with the intention of fixing them, of just maybe setting an example or holding space, but it really does come down to, if you're in the space, which probably a bunch of you listening are, focus on yourself, focus on healing yourself to the highest degree. And in that process, you will actually help way more people than if you just go straight to helping someone based off that book you read, that you kind of understand. So it's really fucking true. And I'm assuming that, you tell people the same thing who are wanting to coach, just like focus on fixing you first. Like that's just the most paramount thing. And on that, what I wanted to talk about today on a health perspective is gut and food. So let's go down that route. Like what are the P's and Q's, or the essentials for food and gut health in today's day and age?
Most of the time you're going to need to supplement with something depending on where you're at. Before I even get to talking about food, most people don't consistently stay long enough, because what ends up happening is the healthier you get, the more pain you actually feel that you've ignored.
Yep.
Because as your stimulus goes down, people are like, hey, I'm in pain. And then they go back to the thing that got them out of pain, but then it perpetually gets them worse. So that's the biggest thing is, hey, when you actually get healthier, detoxing isn't pretty. Like you're going to paint your toilet all sorts of different colors, and it's going to be uncomfortable. Your gut's going to hurt. Your skin's going to break out if you're doing it right.
Yeah.
And when
it sucks, but
it has to come out through your breath. Like fat comes out, like most people's toxins, 60-something% of them, I think, comes out of your mouth. And people don't grasp that. They're like, oh, I thought I poop them out. It's like, yes. And most of it actually comes out of your mouth when you detox.
Yeah.
So, but then, they do a 3-day juice cleanse. They go, I feel great. And then they go back to doing the behaviors. And that's what I see a lot of people do. They go, when can I get back to doing that? You don't. It's like saying, hey, when can I become wealthy so I can be broke again? You go, why would you want to do that? Don't you want to, as you accrue a certain amount of money, then invest it, so that way, let's say your passive income from your investments pays your lifestyle, and then you can hand that over to your kids and secure your own your safety, security, sex, sustenance, where food's coming from. Why would you want to build and work so hard to then piss it all away?
Yeah. And
that's what a lot of people, where their mind's at, whether it be financially and food as well. Or if they're exercise, I'm going to get healed up and then I'm going to go trash my body again.
Yeah.
Why? Go sleep, So when we're talking about food is that these things come up is, clean water. If we're talking about clean water, we're talking about finding water from a spring, maybe have a charcoal filter so we can clean some kind of, parasites potentially out of there, bacteria, make sure the spring is clean. And if you don't have a spring, get an RO system or a hydrogen system, something that cleans your water a little bit more. And then you can add some Celtic salt, wiping out processed salt out of your system that's been demineralized and denatured, and iodine has been added to it. And so basic Celtic salt, Himalayan salt, Hawaiian salt that comes from the earth, that the earth made. The earth's pretty cool at making stuff.
Yeah.
And really good at it, especially in the proportions that your body needs. So now you have like Shilajit, Irish sea moss. You see a lot of people talking about it. It has over 90 of the 102, I think, minerals that your body needs to function. And most people have this idea that they need macros to function. But if you cut out all the macros out of your diet and you put minerals in, you'll continue to survive.
The macros is such bullshit.
Yeah.
It's true bullshit.
Have you ever seen people that don't eat and gain weight? Like, how do you explain that with macros? Yeah. How do you put no calories in and then your body gains weight? So there's something that happens on a quantum level. And the same thing with when people look at the sun. Like, how do you take light rays and then your body creates vitamin D. All you have to do is think about those two several things long enough, and you'll realize, wow, none of that matters. If you follow macros but don't sleep, you'll gain weight.
Yeah.
So
it's also even for the people who are. So I go, I'm a part of the gym bro. I like going to the gym, I like lifting, and I have a trainer. All love and blessings to him. He's very much convinced of the macros. Right? He's in good shape. He's a good looking dude. He's strong, but I'm always like, bro, like this may make you look a certain way, but your internal system's probably a mess. Like just because you have abs and muscles, you're still eating, protein powder with covered in heavy metals. You're eating a bunch of, gluten and processed things. You go to Chick-fil-A because it fits your macros. And again, not throwing a shot, just it's all love. But so let's bring it back to the food concept. But how do we bust the argument right now that macros just aren't beyond like, do they even make you like look good? Is that just new genetics, or is there any silver lining in them?
The silver lining would be if you got rid of macros and focused on the quality of food, and let's say you follow, cutting out gluten, cutting out processed dairy. I don't even eat dairy. I don't eat eggs because I've been eating them for so long that it busts my gut up so much that I have to eat duck eggs, ostrich, quail, anything other than chicken, because I've eaten chicken so much in my whole life because I bodybuilded.
Yeah.
and I used to eat 6,000 calories a day. And then I was an ox, 240 pounds, lean, got injured, started learning about Paul Chek's work, cleaned my gut up, absorption, started working on my gut health, started eating maybe 1,500, 2,000 calories, went from then 220 again, back up to 240 lean. And I started realizing that macros are absolute garbage, because if you follow, how are macros you're going to dictate unless you keep your energy expenditure the same all the time.
Yep.
What happens if you have a hard day at work? What happens if you take a day off?
Important.
Yeah. Are you going to have a tailored macro scale? And then how are you actually calculating deficits and calories and all of those 500 pluses, 500 minuses? What you're doing is ultimately robbing your system of the nutrition needs. And when you eat and let your body absorb food, if they fix their gut, let's say that's the same argument as putting someone on a feeding tube. They're alive.
Yeah.
Great, but are they thriving?
Yeah.
And so when you look at other people's health and you actually start looking into more careful things, like, are they taking TRT? Are they taking, why isn't their testosterone up naturally? Why can't you get an erection at 20, 30 years old? That's a problem.
Yeah.
And it has to do with nothing outside of the way you think and the food and the chemicals you're putting all up in your body. And we have a generation of really healthy looking sick people that don't have periods, that can't get erections without help, have to be on hormones to.
They're going for women right now.
Yeah.
I know a lot of women who think that. So my sister has had experience with eating disorders, and it's this false belief that women thrive on being super skinny, and it leads to them having menstrual issues. It's all. I hear you. Yeah.
But back to the question of how do we dispel the macros? I think going back to that saying, if you see people who don't eat gain weight, if you know those people, and all you have to do is be brave enough to find someone and watch them not eat all day and get bigger and get bigger and get bigger after consuming, let's say, another cookie, and then they become, they eat a cookie a day, and then all of a sudden they keep putting on weight. And then the person that eats like a train and loses weight, well, then what's going on? So it all goes back to digestion and absorption, because those same people that come to me and go, hey, I can eat whatever I want and I don't gain weight, the moment I fix their digestion, they cannot do that.
Yeah.
Because what ends up happening is all those toxins start absorbing into their system, and they don't gain weight because of fat. They gain weight because of so much toxic things they're putting in their system, that the way your body buffers that is added water. Because if you drink, let's say you drink a cap of bleach, you might get really sick.
Yeah.
But if I put a cap of bleach in, 5 gallons of water and had you drink it, it may not make you as sick.
Yeah.
Because you've diluted those contents. So what your body does is it retains water to dilute toxicity. And also why we don't eat commercial animals is because the toxins that the animal produces gets stored in the adipose tissue. But also that's where you get all those fat-soluble vitamins that are really healthy for you. So now you have to eat chicken breast and not have good minerals and vitamins, which is actually what you need, out of the chicken thighs, because that's where all the chicken's gluten, soy, and inflammation is stored in. So now you eat that and you get sick. But then when you go to a farmer that takes care of their farm on a regenerative farm and lets their chickens run and eat, carcasses and bugs all day, and those eggs are deep, deep orange, and let's say you do eat those eggs and your body absorbs them, you're going to get a better you're not going to get the same reaction as if you would one of those commercial, I don't know, Tyson, if they maybe make chicken, or whoever the chicken consumer, farmer is. And you're going to get an inflammatory reaction, like your fart smell. You're like, oh, well, how many people do you know that look really healthy that have really bad gas, or they don't menstruate, or their hair's falling out, their libido is low, or they have joint aches that they're ignoring, they're wearing bands and straps? That's not healthy. So they're ignoring things while idolizing the fact that they have abs and low body fat percentage. And there's people that get cosmetic surgery that they lie to you about. They lie that they had it.
Yeah, it's also the mental health too. Like, definitely the quality of fat you're eating, all that determines the way your brain functions. Like,
Yeah.
I'll tell people who are, again, friends who are jacked or in good shape. My sister, she's in good shape. She's in the macros train, and she's like, "But I look good," and I'm like, "I promise your brain's not doing good." And the only fat you're getting is, canola oil. All your fat sources are fucked up. Like, it's truly fucks. It does affect your brain in that way. That's why I do. For me, I do all this stuff. Like, I try to eat the way I do and work out. Not because I want to look good. That's definitely a plus, but it's because I cannot function. My brain's not functioning. I've gotten to that point of awareness where just like, I need my brain to be feeling like it's working to some degree. It's so crazy now that, you're probably in the same boat, that you've woken up and you're aware of how it feels to feel good. The smallest thing could take me out of feeling that way. The smallest fucking thing. Like, one wrong piece of meat, one wrong water bottle. And just the smallest thing that you're aware, you start realizing, fuck, like how important it is to keep yourself functioning at a high level. And it can get frustrating. Yeah.
And the people that go on and on and on, and like, let's say they're trying to go on this health journey. It's like that looking back. It's like you have to go far enough, maybe a couple months, 3 months of like I call it being pregnant. Because if you're pregnant, and let's say you're not pregnant tomorrow, you're not gonna be pregnant the next day, and then not pregnant the next day, and then pregnant the next day. That's not how your biology functions. So the way I tell people is pretend you're pregnant, carry this through.
Yeah.
3 to 9 months. Because then what happens is exactly what you're describing. Then you're like, I'm gonna go to my friend's birthday, and you're gonna have a drink, and you're gonna get piss-faced drunk, or you're gonna be so hungover, and you have some birthday cake, and then your gut's gonna be distended, and you're not gonna notice that. Or you're gonna notice that like you haven't noticed it before.
Yeah.
But you need enough space from the abuse to realize that what you're doing was not healthy. And then when you experience the abuse again, you go, holy shit, I'm like really abusing my body.
It really pisses me off nowadays and all this stuff. Where I'll get triggered. I'll own the trigger. Is that when people I know who are part of that world say I have disordered eating, because I eat healthy, because I don't want to eat cake, bread, I don't want to drink alcohol, I don't want to go eat fried chicken, that I somehow would have disordered eating. It really pisses me off that it just like.
What you can ask them is, well, what's this disorder? Like, why is this disorder so bad? And then they'll say, oh, you're not having fun. And I go, well, that's projecting that I'm not having fun. Yeah. And I go, do you think I'm not having fun? Well, why am I here if I'm not having fun?
Yeah.
And then you can go, well, why do you think I'm not eating? You ask them questions.
Yeah.
The best way to ask, get people is
I do that, but they just get like, they're so convinced of their shit. They get so
they
like,
gotta hear it. They gotta hear it.
I know.
And you go, well, why do you think I don't eat this way? Because you say it makes you feel like garbage. Okay. So if that is true, let's pretend that is true. As my friend, you're my friend, right? And they'll go, yeah, of course, I'm best friend or whatever. You go, well, why would you want to put me in a situation that brings me harm? Well, I don't want to do that, but then I told you this brings me harm. And then usually something clicks, and then they go, well, forget it,
Yeah.
And then they stop labeling you as having a disorder.
Yeah. It's such a complex road because there are, I don't know what you think about it, but there's definitely massive high prevalence of eating disorders. nowadays, especially with women. And the frustration I have is then the current recommendations to do that are like, you should feel good about eating anything, right? You should feel good about eating that cake or that Coke. And for some who like can't eat anything or on that journey, maybe, but it doesn't make sense to me that like we're like applauding and like recommending people just to feel good about whatever they eat so they don't get a psychological issue. It never really made much sense to me, but it's the world we live in.
The truth of the matter is, they're trying to get you to eat the stuff that they're selling.
Oh, for sure.
Because if people ate the treats that I eat, that are gluten-free, dairy-free, don't have sugar, and then you go on a fast and you stop eating sugar for, let's say, 3 months, your taste buds will restructure and reset. And most people don't even, like, if you give someone that eats a lot of sugar, strawberries or raspberries, they can't taste them.
Yeah, for sure.
And so when you have to reset their palate and you go, here, eat these chocolate chip cookies I made. They don't have dairy, they don't have gluten, they have maybe a butter, but that's not lactose, let's say. They don't have eggs in them. They were replaced by either like flax or applesauce or whatever, And but in people's minds, that doesn't make sense. It's like them going, hey, come over to my house so we can eat squirrel. You're like, what? No. But why? It's an animal. People eat squirrel all the time. And then you go, well, come to my house, we'll eat testicles. Oh, testicles. That doesn't make sense to me. Well, have you tried? Man, that's some serious testosterone that you get, vitality that you get. But it's getting past that idea that we shouldn't eat that because someone put that in your mind, that organs are icky. And all you got to do is continue to eat, Tyson chicken nuggets and chicken breast because that's healthy. And then that's what tastes good. And then you don't even taste it because it's bland as shit. And you're pouring sauce and ketchup all over it anyway, right?
Did you see that new hierarchy? I think like the White House nutritional guideline where they had like frosted mini wheats and like kale at the top and then had like ground beef and eggs all the way at the bottom.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty safe to say like whatever they're recommending, flip it and then you're going to be better off. Like it's if you can apply that and then even make a thought experiment and go, well, if I look around and go, who are the happier people? Truly, not the ones that are walking around creating chaos and gossip and all these things. Like if you find really happy people, what are they doing? And then you'll find out that they probably don't eat too much sugar. And if they do, they're okay with the way they look and they don't look absolutely terrible, but because their mind is really healthy and has a purpose, like taking care of their kids and going to their work and coming back and enjoying their family, you're going to notice that the things that they do are usually healthier.
Yeah, for sure.
But then you might, the more questions you give them, then you'll you're a type of person that could probably find bugs in people's thinking really easily, and then you go, oh, that's agitating to you. Let's poke on that a little bit. And once you find people with very little agitations, things that they do are usually synonymous with healthy mindsets, healthy food, healthy water, cutting out EMFs, cutting out, blue lights out of their life and wearing things that are organic instead of they don't care the way they dress, they're not the sense that they don't care as like I'm gonna go in my boxers, but they don't put that much emphasis because I don't see my clothes, you see my clothes. So I'm wearing something that's comfortable, but y'all are seeing the way I'm dressed. I don't see it. So and if this doesn't look great, I feel comfortable. My body breathe, but if I put on a bunch of polyester and like some, like whatever I can't think of another one except Lululemon. If I put on some Lululemon, I feel like I'm suffocating.
It's crazy that this may get flagged for just deep misinformation, but in my own personal experience, I used to wear like compression shorts, like polyester compression shorts as boxers, and I was in that period of time struggling to get full erections. I didn't feel as aroused. My libido was down. And I was just confused. I was like, I think I'm pretty masculine, all this stuff. I was like, what the fuck's going on? And I switched to just like plain old school cotton boxers, like the long ones. Erections better, more libido. Just like, oh. I always thought that stuff was like, not, you're crazy for saying that, but I literally experienced it. Like it's true. Like I do believe that wearing that stuff was actually costing me of a certain amount of testosterone. My dick wasn't functioning as well as it is now with wearing either no underwear or cotton boxers.
Yeah, commando gang,
Yeah.
right here, all day. I don't remember the last time I put on like boxers. I do actually. My best man at my wedding got us matching briefs, and so we took pictures in the briefs, and then I immediately was like, I'm done with
You're
this.
against even just like cotton boxers, no underwear all the time. The ball is free.
That's my preference.
Yeah.
That's my
What
preference.
is there an argument you have for that? Like why you do it?
Well, I'm not comfortable in them.
Okay, that's enough.
Yeah, I mean, when you have shorts on top of like loose boxers, they tend to bunch, and then I have bigger legs, so all my pants, even when I stand up in these pants, if I don't tie them above my waist, my legs as I walk, it'll bring my pants down, and it's annoying because my waist is smaller than my legs are, so nothing really fits right. And I can't wear anything loose, so I have to wear compression, but I don't want to wear compression. So then I'm stuck going like, well, what do I want to do? So the answer is nothing. Because the mechanism for your balls and your testicles are, if they are cold, they come up for more body heat because they need to stay at a certain heat.
Yeah.
So they need to be able to float. And if they can't float up and down based on what the environment is, then it's going to affect your sperm health, and it's going to infertility.
The compression shorts, your balls are just like it's like turtle shells.
Yep.
It's like a.
Yeah. And now if you're working out and you're hot, and I get it, if you're like a professional athlete and there's like way too much balls and stuff hanging around that you don't want to flying around. Like I totally get it for like a competitive edge.
Basketball game or something.
Yeah, I mean I would do the same thing. Like when I play football, or I'm compression shorted up.
Yeah.
So that way I'm not like
Not to lift weights. You don't need to lift weights.
Yeah.
And stuff, yeah.
No. I mean, hang cleans maybe, because I've definitely had not fun with the bar. With some shorts, and I've underclipped myself before. So yeah, it's so if I'm speaking from that perspective, I don't do hang cleans unless I have some fitted shorts. But once again, it's like there's a tool. Like I don't walk around with a hammer. I go, I need a hammer. I go get my hammer and I nail the thing in. I put my hammer back. So I have clothes and shoes and cleats for different sports that I participate in. But then I wear what's comfortable on a day-to-day basis that my body can breathe in. And, yeah.
So I'm going to take a little U-turn right now. So most of my following is a high amount of females. I don't know why, it just is the way it is, but what are some of the main things you're concerned about with female health nowadays, like the biggest obstructors to having a flourishing female body? What are the things you recommend that all women should be doing for their health?
One, I'm going to start by saying you should have my wife on here. She wrote a holistic health and performance for women for Paul CHEK. It's a mind-blowing course. So everyone should be taking it because it teaches men, and a lot of men buy it to learn how to train their female clients. Shameless plug. But getting feminine hygiene products, because there are tons of chemicals in them. So your basic
fumes, all that kind of stuff. Makeup,
tampons, pads, underwear, like dams if they're not changed properly, understanding why your moon cycle is the way it is and your flow is the way it is. Your body is trying to get rid of toxins. Yeah. And if you don't let it, or you let it sit up there too long, it gets reabsorbed into your body, making your liver and your kidneys work even harder. So that's one of the biggest things. Bras. Find a bra that doesn't restrict, because what I see in the clinical setting is the tighter the bra the woman has, what will happen is they will, if this is your rib cage and people are watching this, if this is your rib cage, and I'm sure even a lot of women listening to this, by the band being tight and you can't breathe, when you breathe diaphragmatically, it starts to flare the top ribs open while keeping the upper ribs compressed. So you're going to have a lot of movement here, but there's not movement here in the expansion of the rib cage, which is going to severely impact the way your ability to breathe, regulate your emotional state, your mental state, because once again, it's like you're suffocating.
Yep.
And it also changes your physical structure. On top of that, back to the ball and the breast argument, is they need to be able to move, because that's how we pump lymph through our system.
No bras.
No bras.
Fuck the bras.
Or finding a bra that's very loose, that's not compressed. So pretty much, makes so they don't fall out. If that's because I totally get, like, if women have really large breasts. Yeah, sure, I get it.
Yeah.
But find something that's supportive, that's not constrictive. Like if you lift up a bra and you could see a strap, it's too tight.
Yeah.
And you need them to be able to move. And it's societal's problem that have over-sexualized breasts to go, oh, they're bouncing.
Yeah.
But that's what they need to do. If you look at women in Africa that don't wear bras, or any other cultures that don't wear bras, that's the first one that comes to mind, is they move. And the lymph system is like a pond. And you moving is a fountain in the pond. And why they put huge fountains in the pond is not for our pleasure. It's to break the surface tension of the water so it doesn't develop scum. If the pond is still, it develops a coat, and then that could suffocate all the fish underneath it. That's why fish die. If there's a film, oxygen can't actually get into the water, because you'll see fish jumping out, because fish breathe oxygen like we do. And so if you create this film of filth, you start getting appendicitis, you start getting lymph nodes that are swollen, you start getting adenoids, tonsils being pulled, your spleen starts suffering, your immune system starts suffering. And when you can walk around commando or free chested, you put a shirt on, whatever, I'm not saying if you don't want to walk around naked, I get it. And I guess societally we'll have to catch up to that as well. But ultimately you need them to move and bounce.
Yeah.
And even though it's uncomfortable because you're not used to it. And the same thing with men. Oh, it feels like they're bouncing around. Yeah, because it's clearing old gunk out of there.
Yeah.
You need them to be able to move.
Yeah.
And same thing with zone exercises, moving, Tai Chi exercises that move your body in a pumping mechanism without exerting force, not exercising. Paul Chek calls it working in.
Mm-hmm.
Building energy instead of expending energy.
Good way to put it.
Yeah, it pumps the lymph through your system because it's the only system in your body that doesn't have an active mechanism that pumps. So if you sit around, and you'll see it a lot in like secretaries, you'll see a lot in women who sit and men who sit a lot, their hips will get bigger, but their upper body is like tiny because their upper body is moving all the time, but they're stationary below. And it's not because that they have they're eating something wrong. It's the lymph is stagnant and it's collecting bacteria. And what do you need to buffer that bacteria we talked about earlier? You need water and fat. So your body will put more fat to shove more things in, and then also water to dilute so you don't get really sick. That's why a lot of people get sick when they start going on these huge weight loss endeavors instead of changing certain things and letting their body do what it's supposed to do. Like I promise you, if someone's a gymnast and they train like a gymnast, they're going to look like a gymnast. If they're, playing football and they're trying to be a linebacker, if they play linebacker and train, they're going to look like a linebacker. If you're going to be a cyclist and you want big quads, go cycle. Because I'm telling you, you're going to get massive, massive quads. If you're like one of those, have you seen those cyclists that have those white wheels with the black trim and then they're pedaling in a circle? None of those guys have small quads. Huh. They're all like oxes.
Yeah.
So your body will reflect what you're doing.
Yeah.
Ultimately. So back to the whole thing with women is you need to let them move. And if that means like taking your bra off when you get home, let's say you're at work and everyone's a little uptight and you feel insecure, I get that. Find something that's comfortable. And then when you get home, immediately take it off because you need to move. And if you get a trampoline, like a little bouncy trampoline, then bounce around, let them bounce because that's going to be great for breast circulation. I'm not going to say what the obvious elephant in the room here is, but it's going to reduce a certain type of illness that women are plagued with, and they go get scanned for very, very regularly. But that's once again what we're talking about. You collect a bunch of scum in an area that's very sensitive, that has a lot of life moving through it, and same thing with even breastfeeding. When you have a milk duct that's clogged, you got to pull it through, and you know how to solve a milk duct issue. You get your partner to suck it out of there. I mean, that's one of the things you do.
Yeah.
So they need to move. So we have the products that they use, whether it be for menstruation. Those are very toxic, especially if they're not organic.
What's the alternative to like tampon or a pad?
I mean, you could still wear tampons, but make sure they're organic and the cotton that's in there.
Change them regularly.
Yeah, pay a little bit more. They're not as absorbent. They're and you're gonna have to change them regularly. And at the same time, your body will thank you. Your physiology, your mind, your emotions will thank you. And you can go and get a pad.
Yep.
But women don't want to do that. Okay, cool. Let's stick to, find a dam. They have those Diva cups that pool the blood, and you can pull that out. So that's another alternative. So there's different ways to eliminate toxins out of that. The chemicals in makeups, lotions, hair products, aerosols. I mean, you're breathing that.
Because women are just for men, even though men are not perfect, it's a lot less. You have like your 4-in-1 soap and your deodorant call it a day. Women are just like hundreds of products on a daily basis, especially the amount of makeup they wear. So it's a lot. It's a lot.
Cutting out antiperspirants. Antiperspirant is no sweat.
Yeah.
Well, how do you get no sweat? You block all the lymph ducts. And here we're talking about the new lymph duct thing. So, if you block the lymph ducts in your armpits, that's right next to the breast. Well, now you're going to have more chances of having breast issues than if you're okay with your pits smelling.
Yeah.
I'm going to plug a brand. I like Native deodorant. That's a really nice one. That tends to last longer for me. And also when people are detoxing, you're going to smell.
Yeah.
It's what's going to happen. You have a bunch of stuff in you that needs to come out of you. It's going to come out of you, and all through your pores, through your breath, through your butt, through your poop. It's okay, and it's normal. What's not normal is people telling you that that's not normal, and you should smell like a pristine guava all the time, floral flower.
For sure.
We covered hygiene products for menstruation. We covered bras. We covered cosmetics, deodorants, lotions. Because I promise you, if you take care of your gut, your skin's going to look great. Your gut
for sure
is your skin inside out. Most people don't even think about it. If I turned you inside out, I know it's going to be weird to think about, but if I turned you inside out, your mouth to anus isn't actually inside of your body. It's outside of your body.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an open tube. And then basically thinking about it like a shopping, like if you've seen those things at Costco where you open and you kind of grab the thing that you want, close the door.
Yeah.
That's essentially what your digestion system is. Whatever you put through it, you open up, and the enzymes and the probiotics and the bacteria and all the little microvilli, that's what they're doing. They're going, oh, I like that. That's going to be helpful. That's going to be helpful. But if they get too clogged up, they can't reach to get what they need.
Yep.
And then what happens? It passes by, and then, oh, crap. Yep. We can't get to what we need. Okay, well, I'm starting to suffer now. Well, let's eat what we have. And they'll start eating at your body.
Yeah.
So,
is there a specific diet that women should be following, more foods they should be eating or focusing on, or like food groups that they should be more focused on?
It's a tough one because
very subjective for each case.
Well, because we have several camps that people usually go into. We have the camp that's fully bought into, shave everything, clean off everything, remove everything, or add things that's, silicone. I mean, breast implants are extremely toxic. I would recommend those getting removed. And being comfortable with your body. Yeah. I'm sure my wife will, I know my wife will tell you the same thing. And she got hers removed, and her health has been improving ever since. And yeah, she ended up getting MRSA, and then during the removal. And then, so yeah, it was not fun, but, so there's several camps. If you're already bought in, it's going to take a little bit longer to detox because there's so much in there that needs to come out. Something that's really good is supporting your organ health. So with organs, I know Liver King got a lot of slack or a lot of heat for calling it radioisotopes that they did, but the study was actually done by Pottinger. You remember Pottinger and his cats? But what he did, it was from that. I had to find this research. I had to go to Paul and go, Paul, where am I not looking? Because I've exhausted the internet. And he goes, oh, it's actually Pottinger did it. So I had to find old collected works from like I think the 40s. And then I found the articles of how they would put dyes in certain organs, and they would show after the digestion where those dyes would go. And the dyes from the liver, most of them would go to the liver. The kidneys will go to the kidneys. So if you want better joint health, eat the cartilage out of the joints. If you want better ligament and tendon health, gotta eat the ligaments. And the Vietnamese do it. The pho.
Yeah.
tendons and ligaments in there, and then it's all broken down. You can eat it. Liver, ferment testicles, and funny enough, you got a lot of I have one CrossFit athlete in mind that tells you not to eat them and then tells you to go join their macro diet plan that's going to fix all your problems, and you're going to look like him if you do that. But don't eat the thing that might actually help you, because that's gross. But eating organs is really important, because it's going to go right to the organ for the most part, but also it's packed with tons of things that your body needs, and support your own physical organs, so that way you can keep going on this detoxification journey and take a couple years and like detoxify yourself, because it's not going to happen in a 3-day juice cleanse.
Yeah, no, I'm in this. I started my health journey so I had a spiritual awakening first. I was dealing with all that. About a year and a half ago, I got super into health, but it was the wrong health. I thought that eating salads all the time were the way to go, and I had it all wrong. And then I realized what I kind of thought it was, and now I've been doing it for about a year, and I'm still having a lot of shit, like literal like stuff like come through it. It's a process. So just telling people to know that, if you're starting this health journey, you have an expert here telling you the same thing, that don't expect you to be fully, in homeostasis overnight. It's going to take
Years.
It's going to take a while, because of I look at the amount of shit you put in your system for so long. I grew up eating regular American food, shit all the time. So if you eat shit for 20 years, it's not going to take 6 months to get out of your system. You breathe in so much pollutants for so long, you expose yourself to all these, EMS, whatever, for so long, that it's going to take a while to get your body right.
I think let's say the camp that's going to work for everybody is cutting out the things that they're eating the most of. So if you eat a lot of chicken, cut out chicken. If you eat a lot of gluten, cut out gluten. And even if you aren't eating a lot of gluten, cut out gluten.
Yeah.
Like gluten, because gluten is different now than it is then. The arguments doesn't exist, because it's been bred for more protein, and that doesn't digest well. Back then, it was very little gluten in the plant. Now it's almost 50% of the wheat is gluten in there, and so it affects our gut. And to take all that stuff out of the wheat takes a lot of energy, more energy than it's even worth, when there's so many other foods out there that you can eat that are more bioavailable. Cutting out commercial dairy, or dairy in general. Like if you love your dairy and you love your cheese, at least get grass-fed, grass-finished dairy first. If you can find raw, get raw from a farmer that also grass feeds their cows. So there's all these different standards. The higher you go up, Weston A. Price has a good standard on dairy, because he's a dentist that focuses on nutrition, because if you have bad nutrition, you're going to mess your teeth up. And so that's how he got into that. He was a dentist going, what the hell's going on with people's teeth?
Yeah.
And then he linked it to diet and the Western SAD diet, the standard American diet that they were putting into people, and cutting out eggs. And I'm probably projecting onto you guys, because I can't eat eggs, and I've been eating eggs, like ignoring all the signs. I'd fart and I'd smell eggs and I go, ha 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 ha, and then I cut out eggs and I feel amazing and I can think clearer and things like that.
I'm going to give you a break to digest all this amazing information. And in this break, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you. So we left talking about going into the various food groups that could mess you up, and you were about to go into how eggs may be not the best for you. Or just the main point that if you eat something for so long over time, why is that? Why is that the case? That if you eat the same thing, let's say you're someone who eats chicken breast for lunch every day for 10 years. You're gym bro, chicken, breast, and rice. Why is it wise to switch that out?
If you eat the same things all the time, then it doesn't get absorbed as well into your system, and then your body creates an immune reaction, especially if it's brought in with other things like hormones or other gut inflammation. So then you're going to get inflammation and, let's say, leaky gut. And if it crosses the barrier into your system, your body is going to attack it. And so that's why no one's allergic to blueberries, but then they become allergic to blueberries when they eat blueberry muffins for 20 years. Is because through the dairy, the sugar, the gluten, and then the blueberries with it, it attacks everything that comes with it. It's not picking and choosing what it attacks. And so if you eat eggs all the time, and then all different qualities, and then now you're having this, your gut can't digest it, or it's denatured and it's throwing off the imbalance in your gut, then your body will start attacking it, which then once it does, anytime you have anything with egg in it, your body will completely attack it.
Yeah.
And so if you love it, I told this to my 7-year-old the other day. She goes, I ate yogurt. It made me have gas. And I go, well, if you love it, rotate it. Eat it every 4 days. And she does. She goes, great. I'm not going to eat. And then she puts it on a calendar. I mean, she's awesome. She like puts it on a calendar. I get to eat yogurt in 4 days. And so she's mindful of it because, you know, she's had trouble where she loves like almond chocolate milk.
Yeah.
And so then there's a point I keep telling her, I go, hey, if you got to cut back on this and I'm going to let you experience this because I don't want her to think that I'm some controlling tyrant.
Yeah.
I want you to experience that pain because then I'm going to associate it with the only thing that could cause that is that chocolate milk.
Yeah.
And then when she's like, my stomach hurts. I think I drank too much of that chocolate milk. I go, interesting. Great. And then after she realizes that, she manages herself.
Yeah.
And the moment it starts to get a little irritating, she puts it away. Yeah. And so now we're moving on to the food group of yogurt. So now yogurt is causing those things. And so we're constantly teaching our kids to be mindful of what they're putting in their system because of that very reason.
Yeah, let's call me out right now. So maybe people don't feel attacked. You can call me out and figure my shit out right now because I definitely don't have it 100% straight. So I'm in that group. I'm one of my shadows I'm trying to work through is that I'm very ordered. I try and be very routine in everything I do. I'm all about systems, yada yada, and I project that onto like health shit. Like I know this lunch is gonna make me feel this exact way, so I'm gonna eat it all the time. I know this breakfast is gonna make me feel a certain way, so I'm gonna eat it all the time. I know this dinner, so I get very stuck in that those patterns of just eating the same shit because I know I can predict how it's gonna make me feel. So I'm super sensitive to most stuff. So.
But what did you say in that statement right there? That was the most obvious thing that probably not many people caught. You want to predict how you're going to feel.
Yeah.
Which, if you're trying to predict how you're going to feel, what are you trying to do?
Control.
What are you trying to control?
My own state of mind.
How you feel, yeah. So if there's an issue with feeling, that means anything that makes you feel a certain way outside of yourself, you're going to push it away. Yeah. And it's going to create a problem.
Yeah. The one I struggle with is I hate. So for me, around like 3-4 p.m., I have I have a huge crash.
Mm-hmm.
And I try and minimize that as much as possible. And I think it's health, right? I go to the gym, eat the same foods, but at a base level, I'm avoiding a certain feeling. I'm scared of it. So I know that's going to cause some certain issues. So I'm happy to feel called out right now. It's something I should explore. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you have that crash, what do you normally do?
So I usually go to the gym.
At 4?
Around 4. Get myself energy back.
Okay.
Or I do combination meditation and weights. Yeah.
Okay. In the crash, what does it feel like?
So let's say lunch is like 1-ish. Then around like 2:33, it feels like my brain just stops working. Like that super. I'm usually very like aware and on it. Around that time, it just like my brain stops working. I'm lethargic, tired. I've tried everything in the world to change it, and it's always been that way since I was, it's gotten way better than before, but it's still a thing that plagues me.
What do you normally do at night that you use your brain for? And does it last for a while? Let's say you don't go to the gym or meditate. What happens?
It lasts for hours. It lasts from like 3 to 8.
And then at 8, what happens?
Once I eat dinner, it usually goes away.
So you eat at 1, and then it happens at 3. What do you eat at 1?
My usual. I've tried every single combination you could possibly think. So I don't think it's food.
I don't know if you've tried every single combination.
Yeah, probably not. There's one I'm missing, but I've spent years figuring this out. So now I'm just kind of like, okay, I know lifting and breath work will get me out of it. Because it is also true. I hear you that you don't want to run away from feeling for 100%. But I have a lot of shit I have to like do for whatever I'm doing now. That if I'm feeling like I'm gonna pass out any second, I can't do. So it's a. I wish with all my heart that it goes away.
What do you have to do?
I mean, it's a tricky word. I hear you, but there's certain putting out stuff after quotas I have to hit. There's stuff that I've agreed to, whatever spiritual, whatever, to continue doing for me to get to where I want to go. That if I'd miss out on doing, I don't it's like if you miss a meeting with or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can you do it after? Let's say you don't figure this out.
Figure what out?
This 3 to 8 crash.
Yeah. Well, I figured I just have to, to go to the gym.
Which creates some kind of response, and then at dinner time you feel better.
Yeah. After the gym, I feel better.
Have you ever taken a nap?
Yeah.
Does it make you feel better?
Yeah. Yeah, but sometimes I can't. I can't fall asleep most of the time. Yeah.
Hold on, I'm gonna pull my phone out. I can't remember the clock, or there's a health clock. If you guys want to get the health clock app, it's called Health Clock. So at, what do we say? At 4 o'clock?
Around like 3-ish, yeah. So it's always 2 hours after I eat lunch. If I can eat lunch at 10 a.m., it'll be at noon.
So 3 to 5 o'clock is your bladder meridian. If your bladder meridian is like what does your bladder do when it's like scared?
Like if I'm anxious?
Yeah, like if you're...
I'm always like, I always feel like I have to pee.
Yeah, so there's your bladder meridian acting up at between 3 and 5 o'clock. So your issue is not with your food, it's with your bladder. Your bladder is actually causing that dump in energy.
Where does it think it's coming from?
So let's open this back up again. Okay.
I hope some are actually in this boat too, because I don't want to make it all about me.
Yeah, no, this is great.
I hope some are actually, because I do notice a lot of people have this massive crash at the point of the day.
So what do we call it? The mother-daughter acupuncture. I don't memorize all these things because there's no point. It's right here. So we got bladder is... Where's your bladder? Come on, bladder. Wrong. Let's pick a different one that has the bladder in there. Here we go. Stomach, urinary bladder, kidney. So your spleen controls the health of your kidney and bladder. So earth. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. How often do you sing?
Sing?
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah. So the stomach and spleen gets better on singing.
Huh.
That stimulates the earth. How often do you overthink?
Every second.
Yep. So that's going to decrease your spleen energy, which is going to affect your bladder energy, which is going to affect you at 3 to 5 p.m. because your bladder is compensating for the amount of energy you're dumping from your spleen and stomach. And then that also adds dampness, which smothers fire. So these are elements that are in our system. And if you're trying to get more fire and you're going, well, why is my fire not there? So then so something that you could do is even add something sweet, even though you're probably going, I shouldn't add anything sweet. Like that doesn't make sense with my philosophy. I shouldn't add it.
No, I've noticed that if I have like a little bit of honey, something like that, it makes a difference.
So here, based on this acupuncture chart and how the mother, the daughter, or the creation destruction cycle functions. So you have heart, or you have fire that feeds earth that feeds metal that feeds water that feeds wood that feeds fire, and then the cycle continues. But it goes backwards too, is the problem with the one that you're having. So I'm gonna ask, what does your body feel like between 7 a.m. and 11 a.m.?
It's from between when I wake up to like 2 hours after, I'm pretty tired, but from everything from 9 a.m. I have sprint zones, which I try and do most of my work in. From like 9 to 11, I'm locked in.
Mm-hmm.
And then from like 6 onwards, I'm pretty locked in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it looks like you're overcompensating in the stomach and spleen to get more energy in the kidney. And then if we go back to this other chart that I have, this is basic elemental stuff that happens through our system all the time. So earth, how often do you feel life is fair, or you have openness towards life?
Like half the time.
Versus worry and anxiety. Worry and anxiety kills your stomach, your spleen.
I'm in a constant state of worry.
Huh?
I'm in a constant state of worry.
Yeah. So that if unaddressed, going, why am I in a constant state of worry? What's worrying me?
Yeah.
And that's what we were talking about in the beginning. What is actually the thought that causes the worry?
For
or
me, it's not
anxiety?
like for me, maybe people can try and extrapolate this out. Is that for me, I don't worry about. I'm very good at understanding like what triggers. For me, it's more so the trauma from a young age, as being always used to being in chaos. Like for me, tolerating peace is impossible compared to tolerating. I love like stress and chaos. My brain has learned to from a young age have that as its state. So for me, the work's been doing and actually like shifting towards tolerating surrender, tolerating peace, tolerating feeling grounded. That's foreign to me.
But do you hear what you're saying?
What?
It's impossible for me to tolerate peace. And
Yeah.
if every time someone says, hey, you have anxiety, let's work on it, and you reaffirm yourself that it's impossible to tolerate peace, it's impossible for me to tolerate peace. There's no possibility.
Yeah.
I'm always going to be in a state of chaos.
I hear you. I hear
Yeah.
you.
So until that happens, and then we can work on what is actually the things that's causing that chaos, and then working on addressing that chaos so that way it becomes peace. And a lot of people, even in relationships, confuse um, stability with chaos or the lack of love. Oh, things are going very peacefully. I should probably go mess this up somehow.
Yeah.
And then if they try to get me back, then that means they love me. And then okay, they did it. Okay. Okay, maybe I'll go, flirt with their friend and see what they do,
Yeah.
and then it's like, oh, okay, they do love me. Okay. And then so they confuse peace with lack of love, and they confuse chaos with people loving them. And so in this case, I doubt it's less of a food issue and more of an emotional, mental issue that's being compensated in different things. So around 3 o'clock, I would recommend try singing some stuff. It doesn't have to be anything special. It could be very novel, like I'm brushing my teeth,
Yeah.
looking in the mirror. I got lights in my face and sitting in a studio. It doesn't have to be, you know, structured good. It could be anything. And so that feeds the organ because that's how it eats on a subtle body level. Because what I like to remind people is if we split the holistic system into 4 parts, and we do, for the sake of simplicity, 25% of each. Okay, 25% is only physical. The rest are unseen. You can't touch your thoughts. You can make your thoughts and touch them, but you can't touch your thoughts. You can't touch love. You can't touch the ether and the space and what creates everything, only in the physical space. But now if we look at how atomic structures function, and it's physical matter, and atom is 0 to the or 999.99999 to the 7th degree space, empty space. So we're only interacting with 0.00001% of matter, which now you take that chart and you collapse it, and what actually exists of our physical structure is a sliver, and the rest you can't touch, taste, smell, only experience through your organs, through your mind, and through that experience. So most of the stuff that we interact with is unseen, but we're so hard to control what we can touch, put our hands on. Okay, yeah. I got to get grounded. Okay, I'm touching fuzzy things, especially when our medicine. If you're on medicine, you're like, okay, I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the toughest emotional, spiritual, psyche thing you've had to overcome, like the plaguing one that was fucking you up, and how did you do it? How do you continue to do it?
The one that pops up is manipulation. Finding people that, in the Russian culture, basically the men don't trust the women and they always manipulate you.
Yeah.
So whatever suggestion they give you, something to kind of get them to do something for you,
yeah,
or benefit them. And that took me a while. I worked with that with Paul CHEK and my wife. And so she would tell me something, I would go tell Paul, and then Paul would tell me the same thing, that basically give me the advice without me telling him what the advice that she gave me. And you tell me the same thing. And through finding people that you trust that can mirror to you certain things, and you go, okay, well, I have to come to the terms with either they're right or they're both wrong. And since I love both of these people and I trust both of these people, I need to start trusting that they're right. And that was really painful because it was a lot of uncertainty. It's okay, she's telling me I'm acting this way, but I'm so in my head right now, not in my heart, going, but what if she wants me to stop? So then it benefits her life. And then I go, but why wouldn't I want it to benefit her life?
Yeah.
And those thoughts are coming through. Then all the things that she started sharing with me were for benefits. And then I realized, oh, well, what you're telling me is accurate because I didn't take the garbage out. And yeah, you are manipulating me to take the garbage out, but you're not manipulating, you're telling me to do the thing. And if I'm ignoring the fact that I see you walking around, like cleaning everything, vacuuming, cleaning under stuff, and like constantly sweeping things, if I'm ignoring that while being petty and going, you're trying to manipulate me and taking the trash out, then I'm delusional.
Yeah.
So like I'm sitting there, on the couch watching TV, and she's flying around working with the kids and getting some dinner done after working the full day, after getting her exercise in, after taking care of the yard and letting the dogs out. And if I get petty over like, oh, you want me to go outside and do something, get something out of the car, so that I start practicing things that I do notice. And that's what I was getting at, is I practice things that I do notice that she does. And the more you practice things like, okay, well, in silence, I notice she's taking care of herself. That reflects to me that I need to take care of myself. She's taking the time to finish tasks. Okay. So she is doing those things. She is taking the time to cook. She is taking the time to pay attention to me. She is taking the time to pay attention to the kids and share with me how to make our lives better. Not only her life, but our lives and the kids' lives. And it has less to do with me and more to do with all of us. And that was really painful to peel the Band-Aids off. And then starting to have to, it's almost like at first it started with the tail between my legs, and then it started becoming, it humbled me. And then it started becoming more and more consistent with my life getting better.
Did you notice once you let that go, like a health correlation? I've noticed sometimes
I lost weight immediately.
It's crazy. Let's talk about that now. How that works, right? Because I've noticed, again, I tell normal people who think in the Western world's medical way, I'm like, yeah, I had this trauma I let go of, and I lost like 10 pounds and had my muscles look stronger. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, bro?
Mm-hmm.
You're a crazy person. So, I just say maybe that's true, but then you can actually explain it. So how does that happen? How can you go from letting go of a shadow or some spiritual sickness or some kind of parasite or whatever, like a spiritual whatever it may be? How does that happen? How can you let go of a darkness in you that actually leads to better health?
So whenever you don't want to let go of something, you create a gravitational pull towards something. And you can't attract something else because you're too busy holding something else. So picture, as you increase the pressure in your body, what happens? The blood pressure goes up, which means that your heart has to pump harder, and you burn through oxygen because your body has to burn minerals to keep everything tight and condensed. Those bad experiences, relatively speaking, will bring you inwards, which means it increases the pressure in your body, which means it increases the heat in your body. And what does heat do in a closed system? It expands the system. So now, because you have inflammation going around in the system, added with bad food and chemicals, everything we've talked about thus far, and now you're compounding all these other physical cocktails, and now you increase the pressure and you don't allow yourself to breathe. And what do we talk about? All that stuff comes out of your breath. So if you can let go of that and not absolve yourself of the responsibility of knowing what it is, but truly, let's say you've worked through it and you go, I'm done with this relationship. I've come to actually terms that this is abusive, let's say. And you go, I'm out. And you go through that whole process and you're out, and you could, and all that, because your fat comes out of your mouth. Like your fat, I think the book Breathe talks about it. James Nestor, I think. Mm-hmm. Your fat gets pushed out through your breath. So as it gets used, those off gases come out of your breath and you detox those things. So as you can breathe, that tension tends to dissipate. The energy isn't so compressed anymore. And, people that have, that are listening or watching, if you think of a bad experience, like take a second while I'm even talking and think of a terrible experience that you've had. It'll make your body immediately contract. Yeah. So now if you think of a really good experience that you've had, like your favorite birthday, or maybe your last memory with your parent, or, a really a great anniversary or the birth of a child or something like that, it's light. It's opening. Not only is it light, like we're talking about, like, good vibes, light, bring light into you. It also makes you feel light, which is what brings you closer to enlightenment, because you become more light.
Yeah.
And and so when things are enlightening, it makes you more free. And so when someone gets rid of that, because you're able to breathe more effectively and you stop carrying other people's thoughts inside of you, your body starts letting go and you can detoxify a lot quicker, and people drop weight like crazy because your intestines is what controls your ability to process information. And if you're stuck and constipated on a mental, emotional level, because you don't know what the message spiritually here is, and you can't function, it's going to clog you up. And so that means if you're clogged up here, anything you eat is going to be backed up, which means anything you eat is going to be processed. It's going to be start to mold, and it's going to ferment, and it's going to decompose inside your gut, and it's going to rot, and then your body can't clear it because it's constipated. And what happens? You get more fat. You have more water to buffer all that toxicity. And now as you let go of that and you go, oh, the enlightening thought, and you let go of it, now your colon and bowels start moving, and you're letting shit go, literally and physically, and also mentally, emotionally, and because you've learned.
Yeah. Do you try and stay away from contraction as much as possible?
No, because that contraction is the catalyst. If your objection is to take down an animal at 60 yards with a bow and arrow, there's no way you're going to do it unless you pull back. And that pulling back feels like you're going backwards. But then because you've brought backwards, now you've loaded the catalyst to then when you let go of the arrow, that arrow can go into the direction a lot faster than you could running after.
What about for things that I agree for, like the initial contraction, like when you become aware of a shadow, go into it for sure, like really feel it. What if it's something that like it's been a year of you doing the same things over and over again, where you're just in a space now where it's like, I don't want to keep having this affect me that way? Is there a point in time where you're like, I'm not going to go here, I'm not going to contract here?
No, you can take a break. Give yourself a break. If you are actively pursuing real work, and I'm not, let's be on the same page. We're really trying to get better. And if you're doing this on your own, or anyone's doing this on their own, and it feels intense, give yourself permission to take a break, because we're under this delusion that we have to be healed in a certain time, which means we're trying to control how fast we heal, which means we're creating a different problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so if it takes you 10 years to heal, it takes you 10 years to heal. And if it take you, a year, you do a year, and then you take 2 years off and you go back to it a year, that chaos, it may feel like you're going backwards, but you're not. Because if it takes you 5 years to achieve clarity, the moment you achieve clarity through that conflict, there is no going back for you at this point, because your mind goes, I know exactly what I want. And so that's like the same thing with the dating pool. What I recommend when I coach men is, when they're trying to get a relationship, I go, be honest, because don't waste your time. And it's not fair to you or them. Be yourself. Share the things that you really want, and the real ones will stick around, that are meant to be there.
For sure.
And so that's kind of the same idea, because they're so worried about themselves not being good enough. I go, worry about what things that you want to do in your life. And then once you figure out what you want to do, then you know who to attract. Because if you have the perfect partner standing in front of you, but they have the wrong hair color because they dyed their hair that day, and everything else makes sense, and you're so fixed that you want a blonde, but she comes as a brunette or a redhead or has black hair, and everything out of her mouth is correlated to what you're talking about, but you can't get your mind off of that blonde hair, or that's not blonde, then you could potentially pass up the opportunity.
Yeah.
So get clear on what's really, really important. Like, what kind of house do you want to live in? Simple stuff. Do you want to live in the country, or do you want to live in the woods?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you meet the perfect person and you want to live in the woods and they want to live in a condo, it's not going to work. Like, do you want kids? Do you want not kids? Or be honest. I'm not sure if I want kids. I'm open to it, but I'm not really sure. I don't think I'm ready for it. Oh, good. Me too.
Mm-hmm.
Versus I don't want kids and someone that really does. And then you spend 10 years and now that person goes through menopause and then all of a sudden they can't have kids anymore. Let's say it's an older relationship and they've wasted that time. That relationship isn't going to work. There's going to be tons of pain in that relationship. So it's okay to take breaks. And the most important thing to figure out is what actually do you want out of your life? Because then once you set your mind on it, you're not controlling, you're going with flow. And anything that doesn't align with it doesn't work out with you. So when someone comes up to me, and I had it today, someone's like, hey, do you want to go to this meditation that's at 6 to 10? I go, no, I go to bed at like 8:39. Like logistically, it won't work.
Yeah.
You know, I've missed so many things like that because it doesn't work out with me. Hey, do you want to come to this bar? Yeah, I appreciate you for asking me to think about me, but I haven't been in a bar in 8 years, 9 years. It's not my thing. I feel like garbage, all the fluorescent lights, and I come home and I got kids. I'd rather spend time with my kids. Hey, do you want to hang out? Come over. Let's have dinner together. And if that aligns with them, and they go, that's great, and they come over because I know I can go to bed and I'm home and I have, smoke some bags and eat good food and drink the water that's healthy and be in an environment that feels harmonized.
Yeah.
And everything that doesn't fit into that, I don't do.
Yeah, it's I've learned this the hard way. When I was I think anyone who initially starts doing shadow work, anyone I talk to, it's always intense. The first couple year or months when you're really going through it, it fucking sucks, 100%. But what I think anyone who's done it eventually realizes is that you have to balance the shadow with joy. Like you really have to ping pong when you're in that space. If you're coming aware of a trauma and you're really feeling it, if you're stuck in it too long, it can land you in a place it's hard to get out of. Versus give yourself a couple hours to be in it, and then really do force yourself to, play, to do something that brings joy, because you have to have that balance. Less you can get in a pretty dark place pretty fast. And as he's saying, you have to give yourself a break, and joy is a good break. It is having smoking a bag, being with your family. It really does do that. And it took me a while to get. I don't know if it was the same for you, but it took me a while to realize the importance of balancing, doing like the contractive work and feeling the shadow, feeling the pain, feeling the trauma with, forcing yourself that moment to experience joy. Yeah.
You said something that kind of brought something up, which was I can remember. I was trying to listen. I can't remember.
It's all good. I'll restate it. I was just saying, when you're in the shadow phase, come up with ways to play, to have joy, to really do that.
There we go.
Yeah.
Have you heard of the 4 or 5 questions that a shaman asks?
No.
When was the last time you sang? Or when did you stop singing? When did you stop dancing? When did you stop creating? And when did you stop marveling at the mysteries of the universe? Singing, dancing, playing, creating universe.
Yeah.
And you can look it up. I haven't looked at those questions in a while, but there we go. Singing came up as one. When do you sing? Never. Okay, well, a true shaman, those things are what plagues people, is when they forget to sing, dance, play, create, look at the stars and be in awe.
Yeah.
People are like, it's just stars, it's whatever. I'm gonna go home and watch sports,
Yeah.
whatever. And like, when's the last time someone actually looked at a tree and appreciated the tree for what it was? And you're like, you're a tree hugger. It's like, well, yeah. Why wouldn't you hug a tree? It's amazing. Like they're grounding. They're super amazing things that bring us oxygen and joy and shelter and all these benefits. But then it also grows from a tiny seed. A little acorn grows into an oak tree. Like, come on, that's pretty wild to think about.
Yeah.
So when do people stop being curious and marveling at those things that are unexplainable or in our minds? Like, this is amazing.
Yeah, for sure. Completely agree. You have to. Big part of joy is escaping your egoistic illusions of what you think are right for you or are serving you, and going beyond that into a different space of, oh wow, this feels different. This feels amazing, joyful, beautiful. And to wrap this up on that end with was a pretty quick question. If you were to have the average human and they want to start getting healthy, mind, body, spiritually, the whole program, what's one thing you would say? Just do this. Like, if you wanted, like, move the needle, this is one thing that I really think you should be doing. Where does your mind go straight to when you see someone, whether it be unhappy and overweight, just unhealthy person all around? What would you say? Like, hey man, you should start doing this to move the needle.
Learn to breathe right.
Good one. Yeah.
Because breathing regulates your pressures, your flows. It compresses your organs. So breathing properly detoxes your organs because they don't like to be compressed. So basically, when you compress them, then as you let go, they have more room to exchange fluids. So you're cleaning your organs every time you breathe properly. Controls the way you feel. Are you in parasympathetic, sympathetic? You can get different desired mental states from breathing properly. You can go into altered states breathing properly. You can hyperoxygenate yourself, let your body recover, all from breathing. And then if you're feeling like you can get out of pain from doing the proper breathing, then it's going to open you up to start thinking about things that really matter, and then you go, oh, I feel really good right now. I feel kind of high. I wonder what else I could do. It opens you up to be curious because you're not in pain and you're feeling better and you have energy. So things like that. I would say learn how to breathe properly through your diaphragm. And then before you even go into the other, so many different modalities of breathing, to elicit certain responses. Breathe with your diaphragm. Learn that. And also exhale all the way. Most people don't exhale. They and they breathe in again versus.
Yeah, exhaling longer really puts you. I try and do that most of the day. Just try and exhale longer because it keeps you calmer.
Yeah.
I realize if I'm in the other state, I just burn through my gasoline tank just like that. So it definitely keeps you in the game, floating for longer. So
yeah.
So start figuring out your breathing and what are places people can find you at to start, realizing, going down this journey and discovering the things you're talking about more.
You can go on primalfusionhealth.com, primalpride.com. We have a community where people can, if they like the community aspect and they want to access to us more regularly, they can go to primalpride.com, community that we go on live every Monday. And you can ask us whatever you want. And then we treat it like a live session because we record everything. Everything gets stored on the site for people to review with hashtags, easily to find things, and tons of resources. And it's basically, we created it for our clients at first. So that way we can all get them in one page and then all the resources. And then, then we started finding coaches. It really helped coaches to learn how to coach better. And then now it's for people, coaches, clients, whoever that wants to discern certain information, and have regular contact with us. And then, primalfusionhealth.com. You can /events. Also to, Sarah has a new course coming out that's the storyteller, the stories that we tell ourselves, and how to get through those stories in a way that can create a different life. And it's a 3-part series. So that'll all be on there.
Cool.
On the events page.
Right. Well, Thank you, man. I had a great time talking. I hope you all learned a bunch of things, which I think you definitely did. Thanks for watching. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to watch more content, click this video right here. And please don't forget to subscribe right here. Thank you.